Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm trading the ES futures on a 2000 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So I've got the overnight high up here and the overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. So I started trading at 8 Central Time, which is around this area right here as we were making this double top right there, forming the overnight high. And see this this measured move we have in place? So we have this measured move up, and as soon as price met it, we attempt to reverse back down, quickly followed by a same size move back up. So it's kind of forming this sideways structure there, this range. And and after we push up here again, notice that this swing is higher than that swing, so that's a count reset, and then we get a stronger move down from there. So to me, the way that this looks is we make a double top here and it forms the overnight high, and that's basically just a double test forming the overnight high, and then this is our real first attempt down. Because it's pretty common to get a range and for price to start going sideways, chopping sideways at a measured move level. So I don't view this as a two-legged move down. Once again, we have that reset right there. I just view this as as a first entry. It's a pretty strong first entry, and even though this trend line held, that doesn't mean you immediately want to buy off of it, because price moves in pairs of twos, and so when you're coming off of the overnight high, you can really expect a second leg down. Price could very easily tick higher, push into your long order, and then immediately make a second leg down, especially when you're off of a major key level like this, such as the overnight high in this case. So you don't want to just enter on a first entry like that, even if it looks like it's having a strong reaction. This is a very strong move down. You could easily get a second one, get a second measured leg off of the overnight high like that. So I would not want to enter on anything like that. And by the time you get a second attempt down, it's right here on this higher low, and you're right into the overnight high at that point. But mainly, this second leg down is almost nothing compared to this first leg down. I would at least want it to push down a little further, perhaps reach that key entry point, this lower trend line of this uptrend. So unfortunately, it's just not a very good leg down, and it doesn't even reach any support or anything. I mean, it reaches that EMA, not that it's supporting it very well. It does push on through there a little bit, but it's just not a good enough leg. But we push on up here. Notice this channel we're starting to form up. We push up here. We get this first entry long. Doesn't even reach the EMA. We push up again with this new high. We got a first entry long there. Second entry long. It's fitting along with this downtrend pretty well, which the lows also fit. Let me redraw them. So just want to show that there. We just don't really get a good second entry, and even on this bar right here, we still barely haven't reached the this measured move, and so we do end up having another push down to reach it. And then even on this point here, when we're retesting the overnight high, we're also off this key entry point right here on this bar, but we're clearly going into this downtrend right here. It's fitting off the highs, it's fitting off the lows. It's really just not an ideal area. I would also, on this first leg right here, it's still within this uptrend. And so that's also telling you another thing. This uptrend is the breakout of the overnight high. And so we don't want to see our smaller attempt down within that uptrend, because it's really all part of the breakout right there. So even at this point here, you basically have one attempt down. And once again, I don't really care about little ticks higher. I like structure breaks and big picture moves, and so I just see really one attempt to fade right here. It's just not ideal for a long retesting it. Of course, especially once again with that downtrend. Now we push on down, we really just plummet on back down, and it can be kind of hard to see this, especially with we have a leg up here, leg back down, leg back up. After these two legs up, we attempt to reverse, and then it fails, and there's another leg. It can be kind of hard to see that you're actually forming a bigger leg on a bigger picture. And so I'll draw it out for a second here. Notice we have a leg there. We break, form a second leg. So I'm going to remove them just to unclutter the chart, but that's how price action levels get bigger. They get bigger as more time goes on. And so this uptrend, we get a break right here, and like I was saying, price action levels get bigger as more time goes on. So at first, what you'll see is you'll get this break. So uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, failure. So with these two legs, those are your two attempts higher, and then failing. Notice it fails right off of that same key entry point, which it's not drawn exact right there. There we go. So it's clearly all staying within this move down. So this is clearly all part of the same move down. And so what this really is on a bigger picture is the break. So at first, this leg down here was our break. We got our couple attempts higher and a failure back down, but then we end up holding and pushing up higher again. And so on a bigger picture, this whole thing is the break. So we have uptrend, break, and then first attempt higher, second attempt higher. And so price action levels, they get bigger as more time goes on, and you got to spot, when the failure on a smaller picture is creating a larger attempt on a bigger picture. So, I just wanted to go over that. So anyway, kind of lost where I was here. So right around here. So after we had that break, it was getting very choppy. I didn't like any longs on the way up here after we did bounce. It was kind of just choppy, moving up with no clear ways to get in. And we make this, we find resistance at that previous level. We have a sharp push off of it. Unfortunately, no clear shorts on the way down. We just plummet without any pullbacks to get in on it. But I did start drawing this uptrend here off of these lows, and they were fitting pretty well off the highs. And then when we bounced right here, I extended it, and the highs were still fitting good. And so I kept extending it as we, pushed off of it there. Then anyway, we pushed on up here. Even on this push up here, I still did not like any entries. We don't get any good pullbacks to get in on anything. We just push up again, have another bounce. And so, sometimes that's going to happen. There's going to be days where there's no clear entries for a while. But then here, notice we have this uptrend break in 2 attempts at a new high. They're nearly measured within a tick of being measured. They also had they stemmed from a similar spot right there. And so, of course, they're going to be almost measured. So anyway, after we get those 2 attempts at a new high, clearly forming resistance right here, this is showing that this is a very strong level. Price is not very bullish. It's not able to get through. And then we have 2 attempts to reverse back down. Now, at this point, I was seeing, because of that wick right there, I was seeing how it fit with the upper trend line still. And it was basically holding off of this trend line right here. We have a very sharp push back up, 2 attempts to fade, basically fade back down into this overnight high level. And we have a strong reaction back higher, holding off of this key entry point, pushing back above the EMA. And so even though this uptrend has played out with a break and 2 attempts at a new high, we already have 2 attempts to fade back down with and it's clearly failing to fade. We already have our 2 attempts, and it's already pushing back out with a very strong reaction. And so there was barely room for 1-to-1 on this. I was kind of cutting it close with this. It was only a couple ticks out, but it was still, we had already pierced up to that level before, so I wasn't too concerned with that. I wasn't concerned about lowering the target or anything. But we push on out of there, and it kind of starts getting a little bit choppy. You can see here we get a couple attempts down right here, but no clear signal bar, and I didn't want to enter that high because I was afraid of it not being able to push through the swing because it was kind of going into a range level. Not to mention we had such trouble getting through this level. Clearly multiple attempts were needed to get through that level. I didn't want to expect the bullishness to continue past there. And so I would have wanted an entry lower to the retest. At this point, it could be exhausted, the bullish momentum. So I just didn't want to enter on that. It does end up working after it pulls back on you, but it does end up pushing higher for you there if you did take that. It's not the worst entry in the world. You do have 2 legs back, but once again, considering we were having trouble with the bulls, we're having trouble pushing through here, I wouldn't want to risk continuing pushing into new highs. I would just want a deeper entry. But anyway, we push on up here. We get a couple legs higher. Notice this, after those 2 legs back, we have 2 attempts higher there. So I'm just pointing that out. It's very typical the market to move like that. And let me adjust this to how it was. So eventually I adjusted it to like that. Notice it's off of that now. And this is a good area to look for a reversal pattern back down. You can't, even when you're in a wider uptrend, you can look for a counter trend reversal, which be very careful with counter trend trading, but you would not want to push your target. You don't want to push it into any kind of resistance. But even though this uptrend is still in play, there's still going to be bears looking to push down into this overnight level. And so if you can get a good reversal pattern, say within this range right here, which I meant to extend that, then yeah, you absolutely can look for a short, but it's it's very easy to when you're more of a beginner, it's easy to allow yourself to counter trend trade more than you should. So, if you're new, I would just say don't enter against the trend if you're still getting used to things. But there are times when you can look for a short-term reversal within a larger trend, but generally that's still going to be around. It's not going to be like a super strong trend day. Notice you still have 2 legs up on a big picture here, and so after 2 legs, it's likely to reverse, especially if you get multiple attempts to reach it and it's still not reached. You still have a couple attempts, so you can look for a short-term reversal, but sometimes people will push their targets too far. But anyway, so nothing there for me. I didn't mean to move that there. Anyway, so we push on lower here with no entries, unfortunately. We bounce off this key entry point again, and there's no entries to go long here either, because it's just one sharp push down, basically a first entry. So we have this first entry long here, we break, we start having a second leg down. It's very choppy, unclear. You don't want to just take anything in that. It's clearly forming some kind of range like this, but I don't even want to clutter up the chart with that. We just push on lower here. So at first there's another leg like this. If I can get that drawn there we go. So we have these 2 legs down here, and notice that as soon as it met that measured move, it attempted to reverse back higher, kind of formed a little range right there, right at that measured move. And so no entries off of it. Unfortunately, it was just way too choppy and sideways. There was no good short. You don't want to just take that. I just view this as a first entry right here. Clearly just 1 leg up, retesting the overnight high. I wouldn't want to take a first entry after a major measured move I don't want to say major measured move, but it was a pretty good size measured move, was met, reacting right off of it. I wouldn't want to go short right into that level because it's clearly acting as a resistance level, especially on just 1 leg up higher there. And so we kind of just continue with this downtrend here. We push up here, we don't quite reach the key entry point, and we just continue down, starts getting sideways here, and we break. And so when we break, we get this attempt down, no way to clearly get in on it. If we had gotten a 2-legged break retesting, we absolutely would be more likely to get something. But I didn't like how it was just a 1-legged break. I would have wanted to see a second entry, not just a first entry. But we do end up pushing down there, and then we make a new low. So now we have downtrend, break, new low. So it's not surprising we have a sharper reversal. But same kind of thing, kind of like what I was saying right here. I would want to see a second entry. We really only get this first entry right here within this one trend, and we do overshoots lead to breaks, but we did have a pretty good push back out of the overnight high. So it's and it's also into this trend line still. So I wouldn't be too confident in it. I would want to see something perhaps getting below the EMA, but below the EMA and also out of this trend line and everything. But unfortunately, we just don't get anything clear here. It just pushes on lower, starts getting choppy, and we don't get any kind of lower high setup. We don't get any kind of failed second entry going back in. You can kind of see to the tick, you have first entry long, second entry long, and then we get barely a tick higher, making technically a failed second entry, but you already have 2 legs down at that point, and then it's just going sideways. So there's really no clear entry there. Even though you see it fire off down, there's just no way to get in on it safely. And so we end up just pushing down here. We reach this measured move, and by the time we reach the EMA here, it's already going completely sideways. I wouldn't want to enter short into that. It's right into that measured move level. Anyway, so we push on lower here. We reach that overnight low, bounce right off of it. No way to get in on that right there because it's within the trend line. And even when you push out of it here, you don't want to just enter right into that previous level that was clearly acting as resistance. But what you can expect, what you can look for, is a reversal pattern holding on this level, and that's what I was hoping for. And we ended up getting this higher low, and I do think that this looks pretty good, but unfortunately I was AFK during this. Now I wouldn't want to enter, and let me clarify, I don't think that it looks good right here, even though you tick lower than that red bar and you fire up higher here. You did just have a sharp push below this, this measured move level, which kind of shows that it's not very strong. Now you did react to it here and you reacted to it here. So if you push back above, I think it looks good, but I wouldn't want to enter into it right there. But when you push above, it basically closing on its high almost, then I do think it looks good again, but you don't get a trigger on that. Notice how you get this bar forming afterward. And so at that point, I wouldn't want to enter on a bar like that unless it's like a failed second entry or something. So I don't like this as just a higher low. But once you push up again here, it's not too choppy at this point. You do have 3 bars. It's not too bad. So I think that looks good. But, like I said, unfortunately, I was unable to. I was not trading at the time, and so, I was looking at I don't know, I forgot what I was doing, but I was not at the chart at this time. This was at like 12:15. But we push on up here. We get a second leg higher, and, basically that's the whole day. We push up. We start going a little bit sideways. Looks like we're getting a couple legs down here that I'll draw out. And so, look at that. Or, whoops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. 2 legs down there, finding resistance, kind of pushing back up there. That's not a good enough entry to enter into. It's right into that EMA, and then here, it's right into this clear chop right there, and it looks like you don't have much room. Let me draw out this right there. And notice how far you have to push it out. But anyway, might as well see if they get filled there. But either way, I don't see a good trade right there. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.